Welcome to another episode of the Raw Uncovered Truth of the Awakened Soul. The Truth of the Awakened Soul. Yeah, I always have to double check to see if I say that right. With Nicole and Kristi, and today I am writing solo. So I know it's been like 2 weeks, and the frequency has been a little crazy with everybody coming, into all of these, receiving downloads and scrolls and all of these things and the integration process along with the March to April threshold. So, even last week, Kristi was like, oh, just jump on without me, say a little something. And I'm like, oh my God, my frequency was so off that I couldn't even like fathom jumping on with myself last week. I was like, I don't even know like what day it is, what's going on. I don't even know my name, so I kind of just decided not to jump on last week. But this week, like, sources screaming at me along with the High Council, the Egyptian High Council, to get on and start speaking. So I am not gonna start where we left off on the last episode, which was walk-in souls versus being born into a timeline. We will pick that up probably in the next episode. The episode after this one. We're gonna kind of leave that on hold. I am being more pushed to talk about frequency, how it's been, and divine counterpart unions because that is like lighting up the grid right now, like ridiculously. So just to kind of more prepare you to see like what's in front of you, and if it's not the real thing, then don't let it hijack your timeline. So we're gonna start with the frequency. So again, like I said, like even last week, I was so off, right? So much integration, so many downloads coming in. I've literally sat with Toth, Anubis, Isis, and Hathor for maybe about like 2 weeks now, but like really intensely, like over the weekend, or just maybe in a week. So no, in a 2 week span, literally, it has just been like nonstop. So I feel like I'm going to like soul school is basically what it feels like because I'm like literally unraveling everything that I already know because everything is an activation. Everything is just a remembrance, like a full-blown remembrance of, what you have inside you. So, a lot of us out there are going through the recalibration and the reintegration of, like our light body coming into, the physical body at the moment. And again, your physical body is not used to this, right? Is not used to the all the light body, coming on and pinging online, right? So if you are having, again, like rashes, the feminines in, on your abdominal area, that's great because that means that you're clearing out a lot of distortion womb codes, a lot of the divine feminine distortion codes you're clearing out. You're also clearing out a lot of the masculine distortion codes, which is all, womb related. Masculines, if you're getting rashes anywhere, I don't know, like what to tell you. It's literally, it's a side effect of your light body coming into your human self. I went from like being extremely bloated in January and even more intensely in March to I was like this over the weekend, like skinny mini. And then like all of a sudden, because of Easter and all the distortion with that, we'll talk about that. We'll get into that a little later. Like I blew up again because I was like, oh my God, like everybody's like living in distortion, in like this boxed frequency of what, like we were encrypted to believe of what happened, the story of Easter. So if you are called to do that, I suggest you do your own deep dive on the real truth of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. And really, really like, especially if you hold the priestess lineage and the Egyptian Kemet frequencies, and probably even if you're holding Lemurian and Atlantis, it'll kind of come flowing in the truth. And let me tell you, that was a hard hit. So, and that was just yesterday that I unrolled that I really unpacked that whole thing. And like even for me, like it took me a while because I was like, no, 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 no. I like you just couldn't grasp the concept of how distorted, the reality of it really is versus what really happened. So again, if you're, want to take a deep dive on that yourself, you can. Maybe we'll touch on that on a later date and time. So, sorry, let's continue with the frequency. See, I don't have Kristi here to like bounce me back into like, hey, hey, keep focus. So this is going to be interesting and fun doing a solo ride. Okay, so as far as like I said, lots of downloads coming in, lots of scrolls, unwinding. We went from like, the end of March to the beginning of April, right? In this April threshold, right? This March to April threshold where a lot of us were in full-blown receiving mode. Like they were like just scrolls unrolling and unraveling. And when I talk about scrolls, and I talked about this on the last podcast and how to anchor them in and let your nervous system like kind of bypass your nervous system and let it unfold and flow. Basically, I'm saying like it's downloads, it's remembrances of your past lives, your soul purpose, your blueprint, really. And a lot of these lives are coming from high frequency vibrational timelines where, yes, Lemurian, Atlantis, ancient Egypt, Kemet, not like ancient Egypt, Pharaoh, Cleopatra, like Egypt, like a whole, Isis, Anubis, Horus, that ancient Egypt stepping in online. Um, and then you have, the priestess temples, right? So you have that all kind of like in the mix. These are the ones that if you are holding really like, superb codes, especially with divine unions, which kind of plays into this. These are activating, like on full blown activation right now. You're unrolling everything and having to kind of just really sit with it and integrate it. On the flip side, and like, even today, the Matrix kind of like tried to swallow me up, and I was like, nope, like spit me out. I'm not, falling into this trap again. When you are on to something that's like really groundbreaking for yourself, um, let's say the Matrix feels it, right? The 3D feels it, and the 3D is going to come and try to like literally throw anything at you and like suffocate you and, blanket you in to make sure that you don't hit that peak, right? That you don't fluctuate to that frequency, that you don't remember who you truly are, right? Your true value, your true worth, your true goals, the reason why you're here, right? That the grid isn't at the moment, the grid's still very, very wobbly. So the grid doesn't want that, right? Although the grid is screaming for union, right? For divine union, for unconditional love, for integration, for all of this. Like Mother Earth is screaming for like, everything to just, be beautiful and harmonious. On the flip side, the grids are still so collapsed from, the huge collapse, which I would say happened during ancient Egypt and the priestess temples, intertwined with a little bit of Atlantis thrown in there here and there. But like we're still recalibrating from that. And it's been a very, very dense process trying to get here. So right now, a lot of light workers, grid workers, channelers, like everybody's just like lighting up and things are like pinging. And again, bringing in those higher frequency, vibrational timelines. Nothing past that I would consider high vibrational at all. My personal opinion. Maybe some people will agree with me, maybe some people won't. But anything past that huge collapse is density, right? Is densified. And like the more years we've gone through, right? Like especially in like the 70s through 2020 became even denser. So like, it's every year cycle became denser and denser and denser. Which kind of ties into walk-ins as well versus Earthborn because into a timeline because I'm both. Yay. And I get to, I could totally fully express on that and awaken you guys to that as well. But we're gonna kind of just put that on hold and stay with frequency at the moment. So so yeah, so also when you are about to hit that, like frequency alignment, right? When you're about to like really come into full alignment with like a higher version of yourself, bam, there comes that tower moment, right? Because you have to have that tower moment to make sure, oh, did you really get over this? Are you really through the loop? Are you really like done with those karmic contracts? You're going to have everything come to you, right? Everyone like expressing their projections onto you. Anyone who's losing themselves in the matrix is going to project onto you. You have all of that coming into you, and that's the test, right? Did you pass the test, and are you ready to evolve, or are you going to play, down in the 3D matrix system? So always remember that, always the frequency. The 3D matrix again is full of distortion. It's literally like wrapped in a huge bow. It's like a huge big box that they want to, keep you in, wrapped in a bow of distortion. So it's like peeling away the layers and getting to, like the real story. And what I can say is, yes, it's not easy. Guys, we're light beings having in a human bodies having a human experience. So, I mean, you're going to get caught up in the matrix sometimes. Like even the best of us are going to. We're human. We're only human. No one is perfect. I have to stress that so much because it really has to sink in that as a human, no one, no one is perfect. I don't care how good you were working on the council, like way back when. Um, but here on the earth playing field, no one is perfect. And I could speak that with true confidence. Again, no one is perfect. Okay, so bringing up distortion actually and how much distortion there really is and collapses, I'm going to kind of bring in the my dear friends, the Anunnakis. So feel free to go and deep dive into that if you're called to, because I think maybe that'll kind of hit some points too on distortion and collapses and all that good stuff. And they seem to be, and the only reason why I'm bringing them up is because they seem to be lingering around their energy a lot lately that I'm picking up on. So I want to say the more people that are aware of who they are and what the majority of them did, it'll pose no threat to us, moving forward. But again, use your discretion. If you're meant to unroll, that scroll, that'll happen. It'll land in your lap. Just always ask your guides, to bring in whatever it is that you are ready to receive. And if there isn't room, you know, go with the other flow and say, hey, can we start to like release things that, I need to release in order to be able to make room to receive all this, wisdom and remembrance that I have stored in me already. So basically, right now everybody is aligning, the whole threshold, right, was about aligning with your true self, right, and your mission. So again, take it, always love on yourself, right? Always be proud of like the little tiny moments. And even if you fall back, be proud of yourself when you step out of that, right? And you go forward because it is a huge integration process, especially like to me, the threshold closed out on the full moon. And now we're really stepping into full integration. And, it just be sovereign, be still, be relaxed, like just and give yourself the break and the patience that you need in order to move forward. So, as far as divine unions and how they're like literally lighting up the grid right now, we're gonna shift over to that frequency because you know, when you match that and when you're aligned, there's nothing that could come between that and even the density of the matrix. So keep that in mind. If you do feel called that you are in a divine union, right? Use your discretion. If you feel like you're craving and you're yearning and like, you're like, oh my God, my life isn't complete without a divine union, then you're missing the divine union within you, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So, always bring the focus and energy back to yourself and continuously work on you and your personal mission. So for those that are called into a divine union, and I will say this, scratch the labels, scratch the twin flame labels. Okay, the majority of us here on twin flame timelines, I guess, or frequencies, let's say, we're only here to wake up. right? That was our wake up call. That was how we, came in saying, okay, this is, our wake up activation. If nothing else works, this is what's going to work. So it was only here as a wake up call. It's not who you are like meant to be earthly bound. Huh, earthly bound sounds horrible. In an earthly counterpart with moving forward and continuing the mission, right? So, if you feel the ache and you know what it truly is to be, in a divine union, what it truly is to know the non-distorted masculine, the feminine in her power, to really hold these codes and to have the feeling, then I'm gonna say that this is for you guys. This is for the ones who feel the ache, not of loss, but of something they already know. So obviously you're well aware of what a true union feels like. It's not grief, it's not longing, it's that sacred emptiness, that quiet place your soul left open for what was always meant to return. You don't chase, you don't wait, you remember. And when the mirror remembers too, the mission begins, it resumes. So keep that in mind. And yes, I'm going to be reading a lot from the book because I have downloads written all over the place. So, so let's really dive in and talk about divine counterpart union frequencies, right? And not in any particular order, but like just the way that they came in and I wrote them down. And just so you know, like obviously the title, right? Like our the name of the podcast is the raw uncovered truth of the awakened soul. So I'm gonna rip it to you, like really like rip off the band-aid and make it raw. And if these things do not match the frequency of when you're like thinking that you're in, you've met your divine counterpart and you're in a divine union, then you're not, and you're literally in another karmic loop, and you really need to like kind of just unwrap the distortion bow and kind of, unravel it from there and move on. Don't feel guilt, don't feel shame, just move on, move forward, continuously move forward. So sovereignty when you meet your partner, right? I don't even know if that's like a good place to start, but we're gonna go with that. It's the feeling of they're not completing you, right? Because you are already complete in your wholeness, in your own divinity, in your own divine union. And if you're not, well, you are not getting to divine union no matter what you do unless you work on yourself first. So let's get that out of the way. So then but this isn't going to come, right? So it's going to come at you where you don't feel like you're competing, right? It's literally it's you're walking together, not in opposite directions, not one more, not one less. You're literally walking together, on a mission. I'm going to actually skip over it and go with like how you're going to now. God, I'm like all over the place. What else is new? But like Kristi's not here to be like, focus, focus. Okay. So what you're going to feel, right? Let's call it the sacred mirror when you come into your divine counterpart, right? It's like a quantum activation for both of you, really. It's, you know, being in the field, right, of each other kind of just sparks remembrance. Like who they are, but you can't pinpoint from where, right? But it's this like deep ancient like knowing and feeling, right, that you're trying to unravel because you're like, why do I know, like I know this person, like why does it feel so, you know um the pull, the magnetism versus, like anything else, like why do you feel so drawn, so magnetized to this person? It's because being in their field accelerates you, right, accelerates your evolvement. It's like all of a sudden you go from like, oh hey, yeah, I'm evolving, like just like it's another Tuesday, and then you run into your counterpart, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like you want to jump like here, and you're like, well, I don't even know why I want to jump to that frequency, but you feel like you want to. So that's always a plus, right? If you don't feel that, not your divine counterpart. Um, you know, yes, you're going to feel, yes, it is about love, but it's not at the same time because you're literally coming into union to roll out this huge mission of waking up the collective and bringing more love and unity into the collective, into the grids, and waking up the ley lines on that. So when you're aligned, you basically, you're a united front and you become like this portal and purpose like all at once, because you are activating again the collective, you are pinging the grids, to go off, you are raising the frequency, you're assisting in raising the frequency of um of of Earth, of Mother Earth. The higher mission alignment, which is kind of what I just spoke of, because the both of you are holding, and these codes, like these ancient divine union codes, right? It's the masculine and the feminine. It's there's no distortion in them. It's like really pure frequency. It's sexual energy, it's heart coherence, it's pure balance, pure, it's pure. They literally are sacred codes that you are unlocking together to, to serve the collective, to serve Mother Earth, to raise the frequency. I cannot stress that enough. You will see yourself in them, of course, like your light, your shadow, everything you could think of, but it's not going to be the triggering effect. It's going to be like, wow, this is how far I've come. This is what I'm holding inside me. This is what I'm proud of. This is what I've stepped into. And it's more of like, this is who I really am. And you're going to show up even more, as your true self, in that alignment, in order to, like in your fullest frequency, in your fullest form, in order to activate your mission together. Also, non-attachment versus, the pull. So it's like a feeling that, this is going to be like an unrequited love. I don't even know if it's unrequited would be the word. What it's not all about love, right? It's not, yeah, rainbows, butterflies, chocolates and flowers, I don't know, whatever, you guys think of is romance or whatever, but it's more of a coming together, for a mission, like literally locking in and like flaring up something that's like flaring, sparking, whatever, the terminology you want to use, like sparking something that's so incredibly amazing and that's going to cause a ripple effect. Like that's your ever after, like that's where like you feel like you're full in divinity, like you feel like amazing. You feel like this is it. This is like really something that's going to skyrocket, that's going to, it's not about you and him or him and her. It's about a divine purpose, a big full mission. Like it's about something real, raw, and like really out there. And you really, both of you need to be, like completely in your highest frequency or working towards that, like in order to spark that. The connection isn't a it's not a control one, right? It's literally of like sitting back and letting the divine like flow. Like it's a divine flow. So you have to like literally sit back and be like, wow, let this flow in, right? It's the receiving and the giving, receiving, the giving. It's not taking, it's not controlling, it's not push, pull, tug. It's literally flow, divine flow. It's also, I could say, whereas nothing, and I mean nothing, once you come into divine union, with your divine union counterpart, I can't stress that part enough. Not anything in the matrix could break that, right? Because it's a dense frequency. Not anything can come between that. That's it. You're locked, you're loaded. No masks, no hiding, no putting yourself, like no shaming yourself. Well, that you should be past with anyway, being in divine union, wholeness, oneness with yourself. But there's it's just pure divinity. It's literally based on truth, like a foundation of truth and something much, much bigger. You're not filling the void. I'm going to stress that again. You're literally, it's like coming in to cause more of an up level effect. And that's the unity in itself, like you are literally coming into lock, like I said, and you're opening up such an amazing frequency, an amazing portal, an amazing shift, in consciousness, in Mother Earth, and it's crazy to think that this is actually, it's coming alive, and like and it's really cool. And if you're on, this ride for a divine counterpart union, then well, good for you, because then that's your mission, and that's amazingly awesome to feel. And if not, then you're on another mission. You always have your own mission, right? So here's my thing, right? There should be no shame in who you are, in your purpose, right? There's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no I should be here and not there. There's no comparing, there's no density, to the real raw you, right? To your soul's blueprint, to your soul's purpose. Basically same thing, but soul's purpose is more like what your soul is here to do in this lifetime, versus your soul blueprint, which is like everything, from like way, 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 way back when. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. And if you have shame, you really need to, continue to work on yourself, because there's something there that you're missing. When you feel, again, this is going back to, frequency, when you feel claustrophobic from the 3D. And I mean, I feel that all the time, right? I mean, like I even said that on the last episode. Like I'm over here getting, an extreme amount of downloads, and 5 seconds later, I'm being asked, like, Ma, can you hand me a snack? Where's the snack? Where's this? Where's that? And it's like, wait, what? Like I'm trying to like balance the 3D, the 3D, and like my consciousness level, like going like full frequency overload here. Like it's a lot. You have to really like embrace yourself of where you are right now, how far you've come, and like even just how far you've come from March. I mean, March, God, if you guys survived March, huge pat on the back to you guys, because March was like explosive, right? I mean, like everybody says it. Everybody experienced it like differently, obviously. I mean, I was like literally down for the count, rashes all over my body. Couldn't think, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't function. I went into March, like I left, like I want to say like the last couple of days of February, like sitting with Anubis actually, and like being, well, I should actually say being retaught, not taught, retaught light language, right? And then to March, where it was like all buzzing. I literally heard all buzzing, but it was massive purging, because things were coming up that I didn't even know existed. And then like, just purging, 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 purging. I couldn't even bring myself to go to like yoga, to walk. I tried to even like walk, not even run. Couldn't even like I was just down physically, like down for the count. But again, that's, your body, attuning, tuning to, your light body, the earth shifting frequency. There's a lot in play. So you have to give yourself grace. Like always lead with grace, right? With yourself and to others. Always leave space, right? For yourself to grow, right? It's not just that you're leaving space for others to grow, leave space for yourself. You matter. You are number one, right? So you have to leave space, for you to shed those old layers and visions of yourself, and step into the newest and highest frequency of you, right? I mean, those versions of yourself, you don't know who they are, right? You've never been that version of yourself before. So be graceful, be full of love on yourself, and maybe that's the purpose here, maybe of this little solo gig here, is maybe, and I actually wrote this down, and I was like, oh, I don't even think that this is going to come into play today, but um maybe it's more of like, you know um like fully, like what it means to you to be fully aligned in the frequency of your highest potential, right? So kind of keep that in mind. So maybe that's your homework, guys, for until the next episode where we jump on. Is I'm going to repeat this, right? Is to like what it means to be fully aligned in the frequency of your highest potential. And I think I'm going to kind of leave it at that. So until next time, guys, peace out.